The family of a man who lost an eye in a knife attack appealed for calm this Wednesday after the incident triggered a wave of anti-immigrant violence in Belfast, with masked men burning families out of their homes and torching vehicles. A 30-year-old man from Sudan appeared in a Belfast court charged with attempted murder over the stabbing attack. This from Solange Mougin.
Burnt houses, charred vehicles, a community in shock. In Belfast, residents returned to look through what remains of their homes after a night of violence, one that evokes memories of the past.
But to see out there, we stand there and watch our property getting burnt out, I'll never get over that feeling, mate.
Use the word anarchy. It took us back certainly to times in the Troubles, where just for a short period of time before security forces and police and fire services came in, just cars been turned over, picked on, smashed, then set alight.
Like previous protests in the United Kingdom, the violence is thought to have been aimed at ethnic minorities, for it broke out in the wake of a knife attack Monday that left a man critically injured. The alleged assailant, a Sudanese man, was charged Wednesday with attempted murder. In this footage of the immediate aftermath of the stabbing, 3 individuals can be seen trying to help the victim before police arrived at the scene. Be it in Belfast or in London, political leaders condemned the violence.
We are all sickened by this attack, but the scenes of violence and disorder have no justification, and we need to be really clear about that. Of course, there are questions that need to be answered, but destroying communities, destroying homes and driving people out of their homes is not and will never be the right way to respond to an attack like this.
Those organising these protests claim they're doing so to protect communities. In fact, they're doing the very opposite. They are damaging communities and hurting people who are innocent and who have been terrified.
Prior to the riot, a number of social media accounts of anti-immigration activists, including posts by tech billionaire Elon Musk, they urged protesters to come out against immigration. Authorities believe that those far-right activists stoked tensions that led to a terrifying and violent night in Belfast.
Solange Mougin with that summary. Let's bring in for the analysis Jack Crangle, who's a Queen's Belfast lecturer in contemporary British history. Jack, thanks for being with us. This is a terrible situation, no matter where you stand. On either side, there is heartache, and one's feelings go out to the victim and the victim's family. And they've made the call for calm, which I think is an extremely mature and strong stance to take. There are people who we've interviewed for our report who are talking about this reminds them of the time of the Troubles, late 1960s up to 1998 with the Good Friday Agreement, ending that period. I think it's fair to say that it might remind them of that, but there's no actual link and there's no real comparison to be made, is there?
Well, I think there are certainly echoes to what happened during the Troubles, in the sense that during those decades of the Northern Ireland conflict, it wasn't uncommon for people to take to the streets to express their frustrations in response to community tensions, in response to political tensions. And what also was relatively common during some periods of the Troubles was people being expelled from their homes, intimidated out of their homes, using violence, using things like smashing of windows, people being burnt out of their houses. That was quite a common occurrence during the years of the Troubles as well. What I think is different about what's happening at the moment is who the victims are in all of this. You know, during the period of the Troubles, when you had people being forced out of their homes, it was usually people from the other religion. So whether that was, for example, Catholics being driven out of their homes in Protestant areas, in Unionist areas, what you're seeing now is similar tactics of intimidation, but targeted towards migrants and ethnic minorities, which has been happening quite indiscriminately over the past 24 hours, and indeed happened around this time last year during similar disorder in Ballymena as well. So I think in terms of the actual optics of what's happening, I can totally see, especially people who lived through the Troubles, why they would feel like history was repeating itself in a way. But I think what is different is who is now being targeted and what the motivations behind that are.
Thank you for that clarity, Jack, because I think it's helping a lot of people now watching this understand the difference between what happened then, what's happening now, and like you say, who the victims are. Is this, as Michelle O'Neill has described it, as Keir Starmer has described it, basically thuggery? Or is there some kind of darker political motivation behind it, do you think?
I think it could potentially be both. I think there's definitely elements of thuggery that took place. I don't think you can really call it anything else when groups of masked men dressed in black, concealing their identities, are literally going door to door looking for people from or who they believe are from migrant backgrounds, or from minority ethnic backgrounds, intimidating them out of their homes, setting fire to their homes, setting fire to their cars. And we've heard really awful reports over the past 24 hours of families, young families with children, being forced to leave their beds, leave their homes in the dead of night, purely because of who they are and what they look like, and because people think that they don't belong in the neighborhood that they live in. So I think it's difficult to describe that as anything other than thuggery. But what I think is also true is that part of what has happened over the past day or so, it has been amplified online through kind of shady, anonymous social media accounts. I've seen reports of images being shared encouraging people to gather in certain places, encouraging them to dress in black, encouraging them to wear masks. So there's obviously an element of coordination there. And then what you've also seen, as was alluded to in the report, is the amplification of what's happened in Belfast, and the encouraging of people to take to the streets by far-right figures, people such as Tommy Robinson, for example, Elon Musk. And what's essentially happened is an individual crime committed by one migrant who we believe is of Sudanese origin, that has basically served as the trigger, the catalyst to mobilize people, and it is very much a minority of people in Northern Ireland, but to mobilize them to take to the streets and to start committing these acts of intimidation, these acts of violence. So I think there's definitely a level of coordination and a level of political input behind what's happening here. But in terms of the people on the ground who are actually going door to door, I think it's very reasonable to describe that as simply thuggish behaviour.
It might be interesting to draw a comparison between what's been said on social media in this case and in the case of the Southport attacks, when the young girls were killed in a dance class, which was horrific, and a woman ended up going to jail because of what she said on social media, which stoked the fire there, figuratively speaking. The likes of Stephen Yaxley-Lennon, aka Tommy Robinson, that's the name he chooses to go under, Elon Musk saying things that he said. If these things are read, surely that could be subject to the same kind of judgment as what happened with Southport. Do you think we'll ever see Stephen Yaxley-Lennon, Tommy Robinson, Elon Musk facing a British court over what they've been saying that stoked what happened?
Well, I mean, it's difficult to envisage a situation in which that could happen, especially, somebody who like Elon Musk, who literally owns X, which is the platform that a lot of this takes place on. I think it's difficult to envisage how someone like that could be held to account in a British court. I'm not an expert on the law in that area, but what I think is undeniably true is that these are people with influence. These are people with an incredibly wide reach. Elon Musk, for example, I think has 250 odd million followers on X. Stephen Yaxley-Lennon, Tommy Robinson similarly has millions of followers. We know that the algorithms on platforms like X are designed to amplify this kind of material. So I think what is undeniably true is that people are increasingly seeing the kind of content that is designed to stoke emotion, designed to pull at people's heartstrings in a way. Like anybody who saw that footage of the attack that took place on Monday will have been horrified by what they saw. But I think the way that one incident has really been amplified and been used as a justification for people to take to the streets, for people to commit these acts of violence is what's a really worrying development. And I think, as I say, sadly, this isn't the first time that this has happened in Northern Ireland. We saw something quite similar a year ago in Ballymena. We saw protests, demonstrations like this on the streets of Belfast 2 years ago in the aftermath of Southport. So unfortunately, it's become a pattern of events that seems to have repeated itself a couple of times now, which is extremely worrying for people from migrant and minority ethnic backgrounds who are living here, because I know that lots of them are living in fear for their safety, fear for their family, fear for their home. And I think that's the bottom line that we have to remember, is that vulnerable, innocent people are being indiscriminately targeted by a lot of these people who are going out. And regardless of the horrific attack that happened on Monday evening, that was videoed for everyone to see, I don't think anything can justify what's being done to people from migrant communities across Northern Ireland at the minute.
Jack Rangel, thank you for your analysis. Lecturer in Contemporary British History at Queen's in Belfast. One can only hope that things will calm down, but clearly from what we've been seeing over the past 24, 48 hours, there is a lot of anger still. And Jack, thank you very much indeed for sharing your time with us, most of all your analysis. Greatly appreciated.